Ooh, new tails. What's up, everybody? Matt Nuzzo hanging out here in Real, and wanted to go over the new tails. We've got the Flow 235, Surf 205 here, and I brought out the HS 232 V2. This is a tail I'm using a bunch, so I wanted to kind of go over the comparison, what they're like, what they're for, who they're for. I actually asked Armstrong a bunch of questions too, just send him a text so I can kind of read off some of his responses, which is pretty cool to get some feedback directly from the guy who designed them. So real quick, basically the Flow 235 is what I've been using most of the new tails here. These have a really thin new section, like super thin section. You can see on the back here too, they've got this really cool kind of lip into them. It's a really flat, kind of a flatter foil than the 232 HS. You know, what I've found is that these are designed for maximum pitch stability. They work with any foil that I've used in the Armstrong range, so they're kind of improving any of those, the foils that I've been riding with from him, and they definitely, you know, compared to the 232, these are going to, in my experience, just have a little bit more glide, a little more speed, but also be turnier, so less stable. So, you know, the 232 has a fatter, thicker section, so it's going to be a little bit slower, give you more kind of more side-to-side stability, whereas this is designed, the Flow and the Surf is designed for up-down stability, but really quick side-to-side. So that's kind of a brief overview of them. The Surf 205 is not just a chopped-down version of this. You'll hear that in Army's notes. It does make really quick rail turning, so I'm liking that on some really wide span foils like the HA 1125. Just that wider span foil kind of works quite well. You will see with all Armstrong foils, they do come with these Pro shims. These Pro shims should be removed. I tell people add those in. Start with the tail wing with no Pro shims on the foil, on the A+ fuse, because that's going to be at a -1 degree setting. And what you're doing -1 degree is you're getting more that trailing edge kick up, so you're getting more lift and stability out of it. When you add the Pro shims, it's flattening that tail out, and as you flatten that tail, you get less lift and more straight line speed. So take those things off to start, and then add them on one at a time as you need it. You will also notice that these new screws have this kind of like bluish multicolor rainbow. That's just a treatment that they're putting on their updated, you know, the screws. It's all 316 stainless, so same materials, 316 stainless, but even the highest end stainless steel will have some little rust spots or corrosion after a while. So they're doing this heat treating on these new screws, which is not only looks really cool, but that heat treating actually translates into having a little better corrosion resistance. So let's just go over Armstrong's notes, because you kind of answered a bunch of the questions here. So I said, just gonna read off my notes here. So who are these for? So he said, for anyone wanting to improve pitch stability, speed range, and glide for any of our foils. Okay, so pitch stability is that fore aft stability when you're talking a foil. So when, you know, pitch stability is most noticeable if you're riding like a high aspect foil and you're going and then you hit a certain stall speed, or speed where the thing just stalls and goes down, but pitch stability will kind of keep it gliding. So on the HAs, which do have a higher stall speed, I found that these work really well. Combined with the new MA front wing, these are amazing. Those MAs are really pitch stable. You add this for higher performance riding and you just get crazy pitch stability out of them. Is a 205 just a chop 235 or something different? The 205 is based on the chop 232 212, but is a bit smaller and has a new section derived from what was learned in the MA development process, equals less drag and tighter turning radius. Okay, so that's the next question, is what's the difference with these and the HS 232 V2? The 235 shares a new foil section from the MA foil development and is flatter than 232. So you can see that thing's flatter than that one here. The 232 effectively now sits between the 300 and the 235. This step from the 300 or 232 to the 235 delivers better speed range, glide, and pitch stability, a bit less yaw stability, so that side-to-side stability, than the 232, and markedly less than the 300. So the 232 and the 300 are still relevant for that more of an entry-level beginner rider that wants that side-to-side, more of that side-to-side stability. Trade-off is a 300 in all of its vertical rondeur, some French word that Army's using, talking about the shape of this front wing. So specifically the upturn on the tips there and the shape, you know, kind of that whole front curvature. He's getting fancy in his old age, you know, compared to this one, which is much flatter. across the span there. So with all of its vertical rondure and stability, and yaw and roll has way more drag. So that more drag for that 300 and 232 is actually a really good benefit for people that are more entry level. Can you use these new tails with all foils? Yes, all the stabilizers work with the front foils. So that's kind of something to know throughout this, is that Armstrong considers these tail wings like surf fins. So you can use any tail wing on any front wing or back wing, and you can kind of mix and match. So a lot of times what I'm doing is a really small front foil, which is really twitchy and squirrely and doesn't have that much lift. I'm putting a much bigger tail wing on it, and then vice versa, really big front wing, I'm putting like a flying V, which has really quick rail to rail. So kind of using these things like tail fins on a surfboard. Finally, were they made for the MA fronts, and why? These were developed from what was learned from the MA foil development as above, at efficiency, glide, pitch stability to the MA foils, also for intermediate advanced riders, definitely an improved ride. So again, these are looking at the advanced rider in mind, so the 232 and the 300 V2, both of those are still very relevant. Thicker foil section is going to have more just more slow controlled speed and easier smoother into the turns, where this is going to be much turnier, quicker rail to rail, faster, and much more glide with, despite this being slightly larger in surface area, is actually a smaller foil because it has a much thinner section to it. And then the why was a combination of many details that are the product of 18 months of the MA development, foil development. So they've been working on this stuff. It's a constant evolution. They're constantly pushing and evolving. And so, they said, hey, they released the MA foils, and then they kept tuning and working on these. I've ridden the Flow, and mostly the Flow 235, which I'm loving, with, just gives you a lot of glide and projection and tons of stability with the MA foils. Surf 205, it's a little small for me right now in the summertime when I'm feeling a little better, might want to do that, or riding in some of the larger, like I was saying, like that 1125 MA, 1125 HA foil. It's going to really kind of add that quicker rail to rail. So have more questions, reach out online, realwatersports.com. See you guys on the water for the next session. Well, I'm not session now, but we're going to session these things later. All right, see ya.